The chandeliers cast prismatic light across the ballroom of the Westwood Hotel, where Seattle's elite mingled in their designer finery. 28-year-old Madeline Foster adjusted her simple black cocktail dress, the only formal attire she owned, and fought the urge to flee. As a sign language interpreter for the Seattle Children's Hospital Charity Gala, she didn't belong among these wealthy patrons, but she needed this freelance job desperately. Remember, just blend in and be available if needed, her agency coordinator had instructed. So far, no one had required her services, making Madeline feel increasingly invisible as she circulated through the crowd. That's when she spotted her. In the far corner of the ballroom, partially hidden behind a marble column, stood a teenage girl in a midnight blue dress. While everyone around her laughed and chatted animatedly, she remained silent, her eyes watchful and intelligent. Despite her designer gown and the diamond studs in her ears, something in her posture, the slight tension in her shoulders, the careful way she observed lips moving, was immediately recognizable to Madeline. The girl was deaf, and no one was talking to her. Madeline's attention shifted as a ripple of excitement surged through the crowd. Jackson Pierce, tech billionaire and the evening's honored guest, had arrived. His company, Pierce Innovations, had donated millions to the Children's Hospital's new pediatric wing. Cameras flashed as he entered, a tall man with salt and pepper hair and commanding presence. People gravitated toward him like moths to flame, eager to share his spotlight. "Mr. Pierce, over here," called photographers and reporters, while wealthy donors jostled to shake his hand. Madeline glanced back at the girl in blue, noticing how she watched her father. For who else could the famous Jackson Pierce be to her? With a mixture of pride and resignation. Not once did Pierce look in his daughter's direction, and not once did anyone approach her. Taking a deep breath, Madeline crossed the room. As she neared, the girl's eyes widened slightly in surprise at being directly approached. "Hello," Madeline signed, her hands forming the greeting with practiced ease. "I'm Madeline. What's your name?" The girl's face transformed. The careful mask of polite indifference fell away, replaced by a smile of such genuine delight that it made Madeline's heart ache. How long had it been since someone had communicated with this girl in her own language? "I'm Olivia," she signed back, her movements quick and elegant. "You know ASL? Are you deaf too?" "No," Madeline replied, her fingers dancing through the signs. "I'm an interpreter. I work at the Children's Hospital sometimes, the one my father donated to." Olivia nodded, a flicker of something complicated passing across her face. "I'm supposed to stand here and look pretty for the photos later." The bitterness in her expression told Madeline everything. Olivia was used to being a prop, not a participant. "Well, until then," Madeline signed, "would you like some company that actually talks to you?" Olivia's laugh was silent but expressive. "God, yes. I've been watching people's lips all night until my eyes hurt. Do you know how many people here have asked me if I can read their lips? And then they exaggerate everything like I'm 5 years old." Madeline smiled, knowing exactly what she meant. "Or they shout, because apparently being deaf also means you're stupid." "Exactly," Olivia signed, her movements becoming animated. "Or my personal favorite, when they find out I'm deaf, they immediately start talking to whoever's with me instead, as if I've suddenly become invisible." As they conversed, Madeline noticed how Olivia's shoulders relaxed, how her eyes brightened. The girl was smart, wickedly funny, and starved for real conversation. "I'm in my senior year," Olivia explained when Madeline asked about school. "I go to Westridge Academy. It's mainstream, but they have a deaf program." "Do you have many friends there?" Madeline asked. Olivia's hands hesitated. "Not really. The hearing kids think I'm stuck up because I'm Pierce's daughter, and the deaf kids think I'm privileged and don't understand their struggles." "That sounds lonely," Madeline replied honestly. "It is what it is." Olivia signed with a shrug that didn't quite hide her pain. "At least I have my art. I paint. Actually, I'm pretty good at it. I'd love to see your work sometime," Madeline told her. Across the room, Jackson Pierce was working the crowd with practiced charm, seemingly unaware of his daughter's existence. Madeline couldn't help but notice how Olivia's eyes occasionally drifted toward him, a mixture of longing and resentment in her gaze. "Your father seems very busy tonight," Madeline commented carefully. Olivia's smile turned bitter. "He's always busy. Pierce Innovations doesn't run itself, you know. Her signing took on a mocking quality, clearly repeating words she'd seen many times. He's built quite an empire since my mother died. I'm very proud of him. The rehearsed nature of the statement was heartbreaking. When did your mother pass away? Madeline asked gently. When I was 7. That's when everything changed. Olivia's hands slowed. Before that, our house was full of music, which is ironic, I know. My mother was a concert pianist. She made sure I experienced music in my own way, through vibrations, through the way her face looked when she played. After she died, the music stopped. Dad buried himself in work, and I became the problem to solve. The problem? The deaf daughter. The specialists, the surgeries, the therapies. He wanted to fix me. Olivia's signs became sharp, angular. He never learned to sign. Not a single word. We have interpreters at home, rotating faces I barely know. He talks to them, not me. In his own house, he talks to strangers about me while I'm sitting right there. Madeline felt a surge of anger toward Jackson Pierce. How could someone so successful, so wealthy, fail so fundamentally at communicating with his own child? I'm sorry, she signed simply. Olivia shrugged again. Like I said, it is what it is. She glanced over Madeline's shoulder, and her expression changed. Speak of the devil. Madeline turned to see Jackson Pierce approaching, accompanied by a photographer, and what appeared to be his assistant, a sharp-looking woman in her 40s with a tablet in hand. Olivia, Pierce said, his lips easy to read as he spoke loudly and deliberately. We need you for photos. He didn't look at Madeline, didn't acknowledge her presence at all. The assistant smiled tightly and gestured for Olivia to come. Olivia's face smoothed into the same polite mask she'd worn earlier. Before following her father, she quickly signed to Madeline. See what I mean? He doesn't even wonder who you are or why you're talking to me. As Olivia walked away to stand beside her father for the photographers, Madeline felt a strange sense of determination taking root. In her work at the hospital, she'd seen countless children isolated by their deafness, but never someone so completely alone while surrounded by so much privilege. The evening continued, and Madeline watched as Olivia stood dutifully for photos, nodded at appropriate moments, and maintained her perfect practiced smile. Not once did Pierce or anyone else attempt to include her in the conversations swirling around her. When the formal part of the evening concluded, Madeline saw Olivia slip away from the crowd, heading toward a side door that appeared to lead to a garden terrace. Making a split-second decision, Madeline followed. Outside, the Seattle night was cool and clear, the garden terrace illuminated by subtle landscape lighting. Olivia stood at the stone balustrade, looking out over the city lights below. Escaping. Madeline signed as she approached. Olivia turned, and the relief on her face was palpable. Just breathing. Sometimes I need to step away from all those moving lips. Before Madeline could respond, the terrace door opened again. Jackson Pierce stepped out, his expression shifting from concern to confusion when he saw his daughter wasn't alone. Olivia, it's time to go, he said, looking directly at his daughter but making no effort to sign. Madeline saw Olivia's face fall, saw the wall go up between father and daughter, and in that moment, she made a decision that would change all their lives. Mr. Pierce, she said aloud, while simultaneously signing for Olivia's benefit, my name is Madeline Foster. I'm an interpreter, and I've been talking with your daughter. She's extraordinary. Pierce blinked, clearly taken aback by this direct approach from someone he likely viewed as service staff. Thank you. Do you work for the event? Yes, Madeline replied, still signing her words. But right now I'm just someone who thinks you should know what you're missing by not being able to communicate with Olivia directly. The billionaire's expression hardened, but Madeline saw something else there too, a flicker of shame quickly masked. Olivia's eyes were wide, her hands frozen in mid-air. Jackson Pierce's jaw tightened. Miss Foster, Madeline supplied, continuing to sign every word. Miss Foster, he repeated, I appreciate your concern, but my relationship with my daughter is a private matter. Madeline felt her professional demeanor slipping. With all due respect, Mr. Pierce, communication shouldn't be private. It should be accessible. Olivia's hands moved rapidly. Madeline, it's okay. You don't have to. No, it's not okay. Madeline signed back before addressing Pierce again. Your daughter was standing alone all evening while everyone celebrated your generosity. Do you see the irony in that? A flash of genuine hurt crossed Pierce's face before his business mask slipped back into place. You've overstepped, Miss Foster. Olivia, we're leaving. He turned and walked back toward the ballroom, clearly expecting his daughter to follow. Olivia hesitated, her eyes locked with Madeline's. I'm sorry, Olivia signed quickly. He gets defensive about this. It's been this way since the accident. Accident? Madeline asked, but Olivia was already moving away. Find me at Westridge Academy, Olivia signed before disappearing through the door. Madeline stood alone on the terrace, heart pounding. She'd jeopardized her professional reputation by confronting a powerful client. Worse, she might have made things harder for Olivia. The next morning, Madeline woke to a voicemail from her agency coordinator. Madeline, call me back immediately. There's been a complaint about your conduct at the gala last night. Her stomach dropped. This was exactly what she'd feared. With her apartment rent already 2 weeks overdue and student loans piling up, she couldn't afford to lose clients. She'd left a stable position at Seattle Public Schools 6 months ago when budget cuts eliminated her role, and freelance work had proven far less reliable than she'd hoped. She returned the call with trembling fingers, prepared for the worst. I can explain, Madeline began when her coordinator answered. You certainly will explain, came the terse reply. Jackson Pierce's office called this morning. They've requested you specifically for a private appointment at his home this afternoon. Madeline nearly dropped her phone. They what? I have no idea what happened last night, but somehow you've caught the attention of one of the most influential men in Seattle. This could be huge for the agency, Madeline. Don't mess it up. 3 hours later, Madeline found herself driving through the imposing gates of the Pierce estate in Medina, overlooking Lake Washington. The modernist glass and stone mansion reflected the gray Seattle sky, austere and beautiful, painful reminders, but perhaps I was only protecting myself. Madeline watched as emotions played across his face. Grief, regret, a desire to make things right. Despite her initial anger toward him, she felt her perspective shifting. Mr. Pierce, why exactly am I here today? He straightened, businessman mode re-engaging. I want to hire you, Miss Foster. Not through your agency, but directly. A personal contract? To interpret for Olivia. No, he said firmly. To teach me to sign. I should have learned years ago. I want to communicate with my daughter directly, without intermediaries. Madeline sat back, genuinely surprised. That's commendable, Mr. Pierce. But learning ASL takes time and consistent practice. It's not something you can accomplish in a few sessions. I'm aware. I'm prepared to commit to regular lessons over the next year, at minimum. Twice weekly, more if my schedule allows. He named a figure for her compensation that made Madeline's eyes widen. Would that arrangement interest you? It would solve her financial problems overnight. But money wasn't her primary concern. Before I answer, may I ask why now? What changed? Pierce's expression softened almost imperceptibly. Last night I watched my daughter's face when you spoke to her in sign. I realized I haven't seen her look that alive in years. Then this morning she left this on my desk. He handed Madeline a folded piece of paper. Inside was a handwritten note. Dad, I know you're angry about what happened with the interpreter last night, but for 10 minutes someone saw me, not Pierce's deaf daughter. If you really want to honor Mom's memory with your hospital donations, remember what she always said. True healing begins with being heard. I haven't been heard in a long time. Olivia Madeline carefully refolded the note, her throat tight with emotion. I've spent years throwing money at my daughter's deafness, Pierce said quietly, building deaf education wings, funding research, donating to organizations, all while failing to make the one investment that truly mattered. It's not too late, Madeline said. Olivia is still young. She leaves for college next year. Harvard has already accepted her early decision. Pride flickered across his face. I have a limited window to repair what I've broken. Madeline considered her response carefully. Mr. Pierce, I'd be happy to teach you ASL, but I need to be clear about something. This won't be a quick fix. Learning to sign is one thing. Rebuilding your relationship with Olivia is another. I understand, he rose from his desk. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes. Now there's someone else who would like to speak with you. As if on cue, the office door opened and Olivia entered. Seeing Madeline, she broke into a genuine smile. You came, she signed. Your father invited me, Madeline replied in sign. Olivia's eyes darted between Madeline and her father, confusion evident. Why? Pierce cleared his throat awkwardly. I'll let Miss Foster explain. I have a conference call in 5 minutes. He paused at the door, looking back at his daughter. Olivia, We'll talk later. After he left, Olivia's hands moved rapidly. What's happening? Am I in trouble for what happened last night? Are you? Neither of us is in trouble, Madeline assured her. Your father has hired me to teach him ASL. Olivia's hands froze mid-sign, her expression one of complete disbelief. My father. Learning to sign? You're joking. I'm not. He seems very determined. Olivia sank into the chair her father had vacated, her face a complex mixture of hope and skepticism. He won't stick with it. He never does with anything involving my deafness. Maybe this time will be different, Madeline suggested gently. Why would it be? Olivia's signs were sharp, revealing years of disappointment. Because this time he's not trying to fix you. He's trying to fix himself. 3 weeks later, Madeline sat across from Jackson Pierce in his home study, watching him struggle through fingerspelling. MEETINGATTHREE, his fingers laboriously formed each letter. Good, Madeline signed and spoke simultaneously, her standard teaching method. But remember, there's a specific sign for meeting that would be faster than spelling it out. Pierce frowned in concentration as he attempted the sign, his frustration evident when his fingers wouldn't cooperate. This is impossible, he muttered, dropping his hands. I'm too old to learn a new language. You learned Mandarin for business deals, Madeline reminded him, having learned about his linguistic accomplishments during their sessions. That was different. I was younger and it was... He trailed off, aware of the implication. More important, Madeline supplied, keeping her tone neutral. Pierce had the grace to look ashamed. I was going to say easier, but you're right to call me out. Over these weeks, Madeline had discovered that beneath his imposing exterior, Jackson Pierce was a complex man, brilliant in business but emotionally stunted by grief, capable of tremendous focus yet blind to what was right in front of him. Let's try a different approach, Madeline suggested. Instead of business vocabulary, let's practice something you might actually want to say to Olivia. Pierce looked uncomfortable. Such as, how about I'm proud of you? That's something every child needs to hear. Something flickered across his face. Does she think I'm not proud of her? Madeline chose her words carefully. Mr. Pierce, when was the last time you told her so directly? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. Let me show you, she said, demonstrating the sign. I'm proud of you. Pierce watched intently, then mimicked her movements with surprising grace. For all his complaints, he was actually progressing faster than most adult learners. Perfect, Madeline encouraged. Now try I love you. The simple hand sign, pinky, index finger, and thumb extended, seemed to overwhelm him. After attempting it, he abruptly stood and walked to the window. Mr. Pierce, I haven't said those words to Olivia since Catherine died, he admitted, his back to Madeline. Not aloud and certainly not in sign. Why not? He turned, his composure slipping. Because every time I look at her, I see Catherine. I see what we lost. What I failed to protect. Understanding dawned on Madeline. The accident. You were driving? Pierce nodded once, sharply. Black ice. A truck jackknifed ahead of us. I swerved to avoid it, but we hit the guardrail instead. His voice became clinical, detached. Catherine died instantly.